The wind howled across the mountains of Varkos as a small human boy named Riven stepped out of the landing craft. His clothes were old, his hands were shaking, and his eyes held a fear he tried to hide. Behind him, the ship's engines faded, leaving him alone on the cold stone path that led into the great dragon sanctuary. The mountain was alive with glowing cracks and deep rumbling sounds. Ancient alien dragons called the Virax lived inside the enormous caverns, creatures of fire and crystal wings. They watched Riven from the shadows, their bright eyes following his every step. He did not know their language and they did not know his. But they understood one thing: humans did not belong here. Riven hugged his small backpack to his chest and walked forward. The stone beneath him was warm and red light pulsed through cracks like living veins. It felt like walking inside a giant creature. Every sound echoed. Every step reminded him how alone he was now. The explorers who brought him here believed the dragons might protect an orphan boy. But the dragons had never asked for a human child. Inside the first chamber, a group of dragons stood waiting. Their wings were folded, their scales glowing with different colors. One dragon, large and silver, walked forward. She lowered her head to inspect the human boy. Riven did not move. He knew running would only make things worse. He tried to breathe slowly, but the air felt heavy and hot. The silver dragon's eyes narrowed. She gave a low growl, a sound that echoed like thunder. The other dragons murmured in their deep voices. They did not like him. Riven could feel it. He did not need to understand their words, he could understand their stares. A smaller dragon, still huge compared to Riven, stepped closer and blew warm air from its nostrils. The force pushed Riven back a few steps. The dragons watched to see if he would fall. He did not. He stood still, even though his legs trembled. The silver dragon turned her head away as if saying he was not worth their time. With a powerful flap of wings, the group left the chamber, their shadows sliding across the glowing walls. Riven remained alone. The silence felt sharp. He looked around, unsure where to go. The explorers had left him with only one message: survive, Riven. Dragons respect courage. But he did not feel brave. He felt lost. He walked deeper into the sanctuary. The air grew hotter and the tunnels twisted like roots. Strange glowing plants clung to the walls, and pools of steaming water bubbled quietly. Every rustle made Riven jump. Somewhere far above, dragons roared to one another. Their voices shook the chambers like distant storms. Riven searched for a place to sit. He found a flat rock near a warm stream. He placed his small backpack down and opened it. Inside were only a few items: a torn blanket, some dried fruit, and a small metal toy, a broken music box shaped like a star. It was the only thing left from his old home. He pressed the toy to his chest and took a deep breath. I can do this, he whispered, though no one was there to hear him. But the sanctuary was not peaceful for long. A loud sound burst through the tunnel, a deep growl that made the rocks shake. The ground vibrated beneath him. Riven scrambled to his feet, clutching his backpack. The sound came again, louder, closer. A shadow appeared at the end of the tunnel. It grew larger and larger. Riven froze. A massive dragon stepped into the chamber. Its wings were torn, its scales cracked, and its eyes burned with weary anger. This dragon was unlike the others. Its size alone filled the entire space. Its breath came slow and heavy, each exhale releasing a wave of heat. Riven stumbled backward as the dragon lowered its head. Its huge golden eye focused on him. The air felt like fire. Riven's legs shook, but he remained standing. He had nothing to defend himself with. Running would be impossible. The dragon growled again, a deep sound that echoed through Riven's bones. But something in its eyes looked different, not hatred, pain. The dragon's body trembled, and its claws scraped the stone floor. It looked exhausted, injured, and close to collapse. Riven swallowed hard. "You're hurt," he whispered without thinking. The dragon blinked slowly as if surprised by the soft voice. It did not strike. It did not roar. It only watched him. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Riven's hands shook as he lowered his bag to the ground. Something inside him told him to move slowly, gently. The dragon followed every tiny motion with its bright eyes. He did not step closer. He knew better. But he did not run away either. He simply stayed there, breathing carefully, showing he was not a threat. Outside the chamber, unseen in the shadows, a group of dragons watched. They whispered to each other in deep voices. They had expected the human boy to run screaming. They had expected him to faint or cry. But he did not. He stood face to face with the most feared dragon in the mountain, Kareth, the deadliest of them all. Riven did not know this dragon's name. He did not know its history. But he could see its pain, its slow breathing, its heavy wings. The dragons in the shadows were silent now. They were watching closely. Riven gathered his courage and whispered again, "I'm not here to hurt you." The giant dragon lowered its head a little like it was listening. And in that small moment something changed. Riven, the orphan boy no one wanted, had survived his first night in the sanctuary. But even more surprising, he had caught the attention of the deadliest dragon alive. And the dragons watching from the shadows began to wonder if this small human was something different, something they had never expected. The wind howled through the narrow stone paths of the mountain, carrying sharp dust and broken leaves with it. Everyone in the Dragon Peak colony knew that this part of the mountain was dangerous. Even the strongest alien dragons avoided it. They avoided it because something lived here, something powerful, something feared, something no one dared disturb. Everyone except a small human boy named Arlen. He walked alone, breathing slowly, his hands slightly shaking. His thin coat flapped behind him as he climbed the rough path. He knew he should be afraid, but something inside him pushed him forward. Maybe it was courage. Maybe it was loneliness. Maybe it was because he felt like the creature inside the mountain was just as unwanted as he was. The dragon elders had warned everyone that the beast here was the deadliest creature in the mountain. They said it attacked anyone who came close. They said it had claws that could slice stone. They said its roar could crush bone. But Arlen did not turn back. He had nothing to return to anyway. Deep inside the mountain cave, a low sound echoed. Arlen stopped. The sound was neither a growl nor a hiss. It was something tired, something old, something hurting. He took a careful step forward. His boots slid on loose rocks, sending small stones rolling into the shadows. Something moved. Arlen froze. His heartbeat thumped so loudly he felt it in his ears. A pair of bright silver eyes appeared in the darkness, glowing like small moons. A giant shape shifted, dragging its tail across the floor. Slow breath blew warm air out of the cave like a furnace. Arlen whispered, "Hello?" The silver eyes blinked. The creature came into view. It was huge, twice the size of any mountain dragon Arlen had seen. Its scales were black with faint blue lines like glowing cracks. Its wings were torn at the edges, and its chest carried old scars that crossed each other like broken maps. Its horns curved backwards like sharp hooks. This was Varkarin, the creature even adult dragons feared. Arlen felt his knees tremble, but he did not run. Something about the creature looked lonely. Its breaths were slow and rough like it had been hurt for a long time. Arlen slowly raised his hands to show he carried no weapon. Varkarin watched him quietly, but the air around the creature grew tense. A warning. Arlen swallowed hard. "I'm not here to fight," he said in a soft voice. "I just want to understand you." The beast lowered its head slightly, not attacking but not trusting either. Arlen found a small piece of dried fruit in his pocket. It was all he had saved from the morning meal the dragons gave him. He held it up carefully. Varkarin's pupils narrowed, focusing. Arlen whispered, "It's okay. You can have it." He slowly placed the fruit on the ground and stepped back. The mighty creature pushed its snout forward. It sniffed once. Twice. Then, with surprising gentleness, it picked up the fruit in its jaws and swallowed it. Arlen let out a small breath he did not know he was holding. The beast watched him again. Its eyes were no longer sharp. There was something calmer in them. Arlen smiled a little. "You're not as scary as they say," he said. "Just sad maybe." He sat down on a nearby rock. His legs trembled but he forced himself to stay calm. Varkarin tilted its head, surprised by the boy's bravery, or foolishness. The huge creature moved closer. The ground shook slightly under each step. Arlen held still. The dragon lowered its massive head until it was only a few feet from Arlen. He could smell warm air and metallic scent from the beast's breath. Arlen slowly moved his hand forward, shaking a little. He stopped halfway, letting the creature decide. For a long moment nothing happened. Then Varkarin lowered its head even more and touched its snout gently to Arlen's hand. Warm, soft, alive. Arlen gasped softly, not in fear but in awe. "You're beautiful," he whispered. The mighty creature released a soft rumble, almost like a purr but deeper and rougher. For the first time in many years, Varkarin allowed another living being to touch it. Arlen's fear faded into something warm and peaceful. He ran his hand slowly along the creature's snout. The scales felt cool and strong, but under them he could feel life pulsing. In the shadows of the cave, a new bond formed, small but strong, fragile yet powerful. Outside the cave, unknown to Arlen, 3 young dragons watched with wide eyes. They had followed him secretly, expecting to see him get attacked. Instead, they saw the deadliest beast in the mountain bow its head to a human boy. They gasped and fled down the mountain, desperate to tell the elders. Inside the cave, Varkarin lifted its head again. Its eyes looked brighter now. Arlen stood up slowly. "I'll come back," he said. "I won't leave you alone." The beast blinked once, slowly like a promise. Arlen walked out of the cave, his heart racing but full of something new. For the first time in his life he felt seen. He felt trusted. He felt like he mattered. And behind him, deep in the darkness, the deadliest creature in the mountain let out a low, peaceful sound. A sound of hope. The sun rose slowly over the jagged cliffs of Varkos. Arlen woke in the small cave where he had spent the night, his thin blanket wrapped tightly around him. His thoughts immediately went to Varkarin, the deadliest dragon in the mountain. He could still feel its warm breath and the weight of its gaze on him. The bond they had formed yesterday was fragile, but it had opened a door no one else could open. He packed a small bag with what little food remained and climbed carefully along the stone paths toward the deeper caves. The air was cool and the glowing cracks in the walls pulsed softly. Every sound echoed, reminding him how alone he was in a mountain full of dragons. But today he would return to Varkarin. He would not run. He would not hide. As he reached the mouth of the cave, he saw the great dragon lying on the stone floor, its massive wings folded and its head resting near a pool of clear water. The dragon's scales glimmered faintly in the dim light, the deep scars on its chest glowing softly. Varkarin opened one eye and watched him approach, its gaze sharp yet not hostile. Arlen swallowed hard and knelt a few feet away. "I brought something for you," he said softly, holding out a piece of dried fruit. Varkarin's nostrils flared as it sniffed the air. Slowly, carefully, the dragon lifted its head and approached, the ground trembling beneath each step. This time, Varkarin did not simply take the food. It hesitated, testing him. Arlen extended his hand slowly, letting the dragon sniff it first. The great beast lowered its head and nudged the fruit gently from Arlen's hand, then looked at him. Its eyes seemed to question him. "I'm not here to hurt you," Arlen whispered. "I just want to help." Varkarin blinked slowly, the golden glow of its eyes softening. For the first time, it let Arlen touch its snout without flinching. Arlen ran his hand carefully along the dragon's massive jaw, feeling the cool strength beneath the scales. "You're hurt," Arlen said gently. I can help if you let me." The dragon lowered its head further, almost bowing as if granting permission. Arlen carefully reached a torn strip of cloth from his bag and dipped it into the pool of water. He wiped along the edge of a deep scar, cleaning away dried blood. Varkarin tensed at first but did not move away. Arlen spoke softly the entire time, encouraging it with small, calm words. Outside the cave, small shadows flickered. A group of young dragons had followed Arlen secretly. They whispered in their low voices, shocked at what they saw. The human boy was touching the deadliest dragon alive. He was cleaning it, caring for it. This had never happened before. No dragon, no matter how brave, had dared approach Varkarin. Yet here was a human doing what no one else could. Hours passed, and the bond between boy and dragon deepened. Arlen stayed close, speaking softly and offering pieces of food. Varkarin responded with small, cautious movements, tilting its head, brushing its snout against Arlen's hand, allowing him to clean small cuts and wounds. The young dragons watched in awe, unsure what to make of this human. "You're not just scary," Arlen whispered during a pause. "You're strong and lonely, like me." The dragon blinked slowly, a deep rumble escaping from its chest. It was almost a sound of agreement. Arlen smiled faintly, feeling the first spark of trust grow stronger. The small dragons outside the cave began to whisper to each other. If the boy could bond with Varkarin, maybe humans were different than they had thought. Maybe courage and kindness mattered more than size or claws. Arlen did not notice the young dragon spying. He focused on Varkarin. He brought more food, pieces of dried meat and fruit, placing them near the dragon's massive feet. Varkarin ate slowly, keeping one golden eye on Arlen the entire time. Every gesture, every small act of care, built the fragile bridge of trust between them. Evening came, and the cave glowed with the soft light of crystals. Arlen leaned back on a rock, exhausted but calm. Varkarin lay beside him, its massive head resting near the pool. The dragon's breathing had slowed, no longer harsh or labored. The scars on its chest did not hurt as much, thanks to Arlen's gentle care. Arlen touched the dragon's snout one last time before standing. "I'll come back tomorrow," he whispered. "I won't leave you alone. You're not alone anymore." Varkarin's deep rumble answered him, a sound of understanding, almost like a promise. The young dragons outside the cave scattered, rushing to the elder dragons. They told stories of the human boy who had touched the deadliest dragon. Some elders laughed, some were angry, but all were curious. Something was happening in the sanctuary, something that no one could ignore. Night fell, and Arlen walked down the stone path, his small form illuminated by the glowing cracks. He glanced back at the cave one last time. Varkarin lay still, watching him go, a silent bond connecting them. The boy had survived fear, had survived doubt, and had begun to earn trust. He felt a new kind of strength in his chest. Not the strength of muscles or claws, but the strength of courage and patience. He realized that kindness could be a weapon just as powerful as fire. He realized that even the deadliest dragons could be tamed with care, not force. As he settled down to sleep on a nearby ledge, Arlen thought of tomorrow. He would return to Varkarin. He would continue to offer food, comfort, and gentle words. He would show the dragons that humans were capable of something extraordinary, understanding and trust. And deep inside the mountain, the deadliest dragon's golden eyes glimmered faintly in the darkness. Something had changed. The boy was no longer just a human intruder. He was a friend. For the first time in years, Varkarin did not feel completely alone. The morning sun hit the jagged cliffs of Varkos, casting long shadows across the dragon sanctuary. Arlen woke with a mix of excitement and unease. He had spent days building trust with Varkarin, the deadliest dragon in the mountain, but today something felt different. The air was heavier, and the distant roars of dragons sounded sharper, more urgent. He packed his small bag carefully, making sure to bring food and water for the great dragon. His steps were light as he climbed the stone path to Varkarin's cave. When he arrived, he saw the dragon's massive form resting near the pool, but there was tension in its posture. Varkarin's tail twitched, wings slightly raised, and eyes scanning the distance. "What is it?" Arlen asked softly, kneeling beside the dragon. Varkarin growled low in its throat, a warning sound that vibrated through the stone floor. Then a sudden shadow fell across the cliffs. Arlen looked up. Flying in the distance were several massive dragons, larger and fiercer than most Virax he had ever seen. Their scales were dark, their wings powerful, and their eyes glowed red with anger. The rival dragon clan had come. The elders of Virax rarely allowed outsiders near their territory, and when they did, it was usually a warning. These dragons wanted the sanctuary, and they had come to take it by force. The older dragons of the mountain gathered quickly, their wings flaring, their claws digging into the stone. But the humans had no experience in such battles, and even Arlen felt fear rising in his chest. Varkarin lifted its massive head, roaring so loudly that the walls of the cave shook. Arlen held onto the dragon's snout gently. "We can do this," he whispered, though his voice trembled. "I'm not leaving you. I'm here." The rival dragons dove toward the cliffs, their wings cutting the wind. The air shook with the sound of their roars. Sparks of fire flew from their mouths as they attacked the mountain's defenses. The elder dragons responded, shooting flames and clawing the attackers. Rocks and dust rained down as the battle began. Arlen stayed beside Varkarin, watching carefully. He realized he had to help, not with strength but with strategy. "Use the narrow path," he whispered. "Force them into the canyon, they can't turn fast there." Varkarin's head tilted slightly, understanding the human's words. Slowly, it spread its massive wings and moved toward the first dragon, blocking its path. The rival dragons were surprised. No human had ever influenced a dragon's decision, let alone one as deadly as Varkarin. Arlen ran along the edge of the cliff, pointing and shouting instructions. "Left. Dodge the fire. Stay low." His voice was small, but the dragons listened. Varkarin lunged, its claws digging into the stone as it blocked a red-scaled rival. The smaller dragons, inspired by the boy's bravery, joined the fight cautiously, flanking the attackers. Arlen moved quickly, using the terrain to guide them, pointing out rocks and slopes that could be dangerous for the larger dragons. One of the rival dragons broke through and lunged toward Arlen. He froze, heart pounding, but Varkarin's massive head swung just in time, forcing the attacker back. The golden eyes of the great dragon met Arlen's. In that look, Arlen felt trust, strength, and partnership. "You've got this," he whispered. "We can do it together." The battle continued for hours. Fire roared through the cliffs, wings flapped, and stone cracked under the weight of claws and tails. Arlen stayed close to Varkarin, guiding, encouraging, and staying calm. The other dragons began to watch him carefully, noticing how the boy seemed fearless not because he was strong, but because he cared, thought quickly, and understood the mountain better than any outsider. Slowly the tide turned. The rival dragons struggled in the narrow canyon paths, forced to dodge rocks and each other. Varkarin and the other Virax coordinated, following Arlen's quiet commands and gestures. One by one the attackers fell back, unable to adapt to the clever human strategy combined with the dragon's strength. Finally, the last rival dragon gave a roar of defeat and flew away, wings flapping hard against the wind. The sanctuary was safe. Smoke and dust hung in the air, and the elder dragons let out a low hum, their relief audible. Arlen collapsed onto a rock, exhausted but alive. Varkarin lowered its head beside him, brushing its massive snout against the boy's shoulder gently. The golden eyes glimmered with trust and approval. The other dragons gathered around, murmuring softly. For the first time, the human's presence felt meaningful. One elder dragon stepped forward, towering above the rest. Its voice echoed like thunder. This human, he is not just a child. He has courage, understanding, and heart. He fought beside us, guided us, and earned our respect. Arlen looked up, surprised. The elder continued, Virax have lived for thousands of years. Never has one of our kind seen a human lead with kindness and bravery in the face of battle. The smaller dragons moved closer to Arlen, circling him with curiosity and admiration. Varkarin nudged him again with its snout. Arlen's heart swelled. He had done the impossible. He had earned trust not through fear or strength, but through patience, understanding, and courage. As the sun set behind the cliffs, the mountain was quiet again. Arlen sat beside Varkarin, who rested its massive head on his lap. The other dragons watched from a distance, murmuring among themselves. Tonight the boy was no longer an outsider. He had proven himself not by size, not by fire, but by heart. He had shown that humans, small and fragile, could stand as allies with dragons, leading them not through dominance, but through trust, strategy, and care. Arlen looked up at the stars twinkling above the jagged cliffs. Tomorrow the sanctuary would rebuild, and the dragons would remember today as the day a human boy faced the deadliest challenge and survived. Not alone, but together with the deadliest dragon alive. Varkarin exhaled softly, its hot breath washing over Arlen's face. The bond between boy and dragon had grown stronger, unbreakable now in the eyes of all who witnessed it. Arlen smiled faintly, knowing that this was only the beginning. And deep in the mountain, the elder dragons whispered among themselves. They had seen something extraordinary, a human boy who could lead dragons not by power, but by courage, kindness, and understanding. A new era was quietly beginning in the sanctuary of Varkos. The sun rose over the cliffs of Varkos, painting the jagged stones in shades of orange and gold. The air smelled of smoke, heat, and stone, a reminder of the battle that had passed. Arlen sat quietly on a flat rock, looking down at the sanctuary below. The smaller dragons moved cautiously among the cliffs, while the elder dragons gathered in a circle. All eyes were on him. Arlen felt nervous. He was just a boy, small and fragile compared to the mighty Virax dragons around him. Yet he had survived, fought, and earned trust. He had guided the dragons through the trial of flames, and now they were looking at him differently. He had proven that courage, understanding, and kindness could matter more than size and power. Varkarin stood behind him, the massive shadow of the deadliest dragon in the mountain stretching across the rocks. Its golden eyes glimmered in the morning light. It had followed Arlen through every challenge, trusting him, listening to him, and defending him. The other dragons watched this bond carefully, some whispering to each other, others still skeptical, but all intrigued. The elder dragon at the front stepped forward. Its scales shimmered with silver and violet light. Its voice echoed like a low rumble through the cliffs. Humans are not our kind. They are small, fragile, and weak. Yet this one, it gestured toward Arlen with a claw, has shown wisdom, courage, and care beyond any dragon's expectation. He has guided us in battle, healed our deadliest, and earned trust. He is no longer merely a human boy. He is a leader among us. Arlen froze, unsure if he heard correctly. He looked at the elder and then at Varkarin. The dragon lowered its massive head, brushing its snout gently against Arlen's shoulder. It was a gesture of loyalty, of acceptance, and of partnership. The other dragons murmured among themselves. One by one they stepped forward, circling Arlen and lowering their heads. The young dragons chirped softly, their eyes shining with admiration. Even the older, more skeptical dragons nodded, slowly accepting that the boy who had once been rejected was now something extraordinary. Arlen swallowed hard. He had never felt this way before, part of something so big, so powerful, and so ancient. I don't know what to say, he whispered. I'm not a dragon. I'm just me. Varkarin's rumble answered him, a low, soft sound that seemed to say, "You are enough." The elder dragon stepped closer. "Leadership is not always strength of claws or fire," it said. "It is vision. It is courage. It is heart. You have all three. You are worthy." The other dragons moved in closer, forming a wide circle around Arlen and Varkarin. The cliffs trembled slightly as the huge wings of the elder dragons flapped slowly. They lowered their heads together, a gesture that in dragon culture meant respect, loyalty, and acceptance. Arlen's heart pounded in his chest. He looked at Varkarin and whispered, "We did it. They accept us." The golden dragon nudged him again, its warm breath washing over him. Arlen smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. He had earned the trust of creatures that had once rejected him. He had become more than just a survivor. He had become a leader. The elder dragon continued, "From this day forward, you are the first human to lead among the Virax. You will guide us, protect us, and help us grow stronger, not with fear but with understanding and courage. You are our bond to a new future." A soft wind swept over the cliffs. Arlen looked down at the sanctuary, seeing dragons moving freely, some exploring, some tending to their injured, and some following the orders he had quietly given during the battle. He realized that leadership was not about commanding with fear. It was about earning trust, guiding carefully, and standing by those you care for. Varkarin stepped fully beside him, towering over the boy, but gentle in presence. The dragon's massive wings stretched wide, and a quiet rumble of approval rolled through the cliffs. Arlen felt a sense of unity he had never known before. They were no longer two different beings. They were partners, allies, friends, leaders together. The smaller dragons chirped excitedly, brushing against Arlen's legs and nudging at Varkarin. The boy laughed softly. "All right, everyone," he said, his voice growing stronger with confidence. "We're going to protect this mountain together. We're going to keep everyone safe. And we're going to show that humans and dragons can work as one." The elder dragon lowered its head once more. "The future belongs to those who are brave and kind. Today we begin a new era. An era of unity, respect, and courage. A human leads us not with claws or fire but with heart. Let this be remembered." Arlen nodded, looking at the cliffs, the pools, the glowing cracks, and finally at Varkarin. "We'll make it right," he said. "We'll protect this sanctuary. Together." The dragons lifted their heads, their wings flaring as they let out a unified roar that shook the cliffs and echoed across the mountains. It was a sound of triumph, of trust, and of acceptance. Arlen felt it deep in his chest. He was part of something greater now. Something powerful. The sanctuary of Varkos was no longer just a home for dragons. It was a place where humans could belong, where trust and courage could overcome fear and tradition. And at the center of it all stood Arlen, small in size but immense in heart. The first human dragon leader. As night fell, the cliffs glowed softly in the light of the stars. Arlen sat beside Varkarin, looking down at the sanctuary below. The smaller dragons were resting, the elder dragons kept watch, and the mountain was quiet except for the occasional rumble of a sleeping dragon. Arlen closed his eyes for a moment and breathed deeply. He had survived, he had bonded, he had led. And in doing so, he had shown that even the smallest humans could earn the trust of the deadliest creatures, becoming heroes in ways no one could imagine. Tomorrow the work would continue. The sanctuary would grow, the dragons would explore, and Arlen would lead. But tonight he let himself rest. He was no longer just a boy no one wanted. He was a leader, a friend, a part of a family that spanned species and centuries. And deep in the shadows of the cliffs, the elder dragons whispered among themselves, acknowledging the impossible. Humans, fragile as they seemed, could change the world, not with power but with courage, kindness, and understanding. Varkarin lowered its massive head to rest beside him. Arlen reached up, running a hand along the dragon's snout. "We're ready," he whispered. Together. The mountains of Varkos were alive with trust, courage, and a new future. And at the center of it all, a human boy and the deadliest dragon stood side by side, ready to lead the world into a new era.